Okay, so we are now at 2:30, and I just want to say, hi everybody.
There he is.
I am so happy you're here today, and we got an exciting project. Those of you who don't have Sergers, I'm glad that you are still on here, or those that are interested in it, in Sergers. We are doing a Serger project out of this book. This book here is by Katrina Walker. And there's a lot of great tips in here that she has on for the beginning serger, and then also tips for those who have been serging but want to learn a little bit more about it. We are making a holder for coasters and the coasters and mug rugs set. So this is what it looks like in the book. Hopefully, let me not move the pages too much so that you can actually see it. But she goes over a lot of great tips. And the stuff that we're going to be using today, I'm going to be using the rotating mat for today's project. I previously used these, but I'll talk about it. The rotary cutting circles. These came in handy today. They're by Creative Grids. They have the no slip on the back. And yes, I think I have a question.
Tammy has a question about what the quilt is with the black border.
Okay. This one here, this is a paper piecing quilt by Judy Niemeyer. It's there's also, she has templates with it where and then there's also a pattern with the cut loose press. So this is a foundation paper piecing pattern. But the other thing, we're going to be using an air erase eraser today. We are going to be using the Sewer's Aid and cork. The fun part is cork. So those of you who have not used cork, it sews really nicely and it cuts really nicely. So in the book, they have a template. So you copy it twice, mirror it, tape it together, and then cut it out. So here's my template to make the basket. So the basket that we were making, here is my basket. I used this metallic printed cork, and here's my circle coaster, and then here's my square mug rug. And I used variegated pearl cotton, which was a lot of fun. You don't have to use variegated. Excuse me, sorry about that. You can also, I'm using these with, they are just pearl cotton. You can get them at a lot of your craft stores. And so today, what you need to do is you need to take your template. You're going to place it over your cork. And then you're going to use your marking pencil. And you're going to mark out where you are here. I recommend marking this out because when you get to your inside corners, so you can see here, I have to get to my inside corner. And if I'm using a rotary blade, I don't want to cut into the cork. So I'm going to come part way in and then clip with scissors. So I do kind of recommend to trace it for the most part and cut it. And when you cut it out, you're going to have this piece here. Now, what I did, because it's, and you could, there's a lot of color on this side, so I flipped it over to the back so I could see the back. And I didn't want my dots to show up, so, and I did use it previously. You can hardly see them, but I used the air erase marker. So, air erase marker, it shows up in purple. I am going to take my Creative Grids, or this handy one that you potentially can get as a viewer prize today, but I'm going to take, just make a comment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Creative Grids ruler, I'm going to place it on my cutout, and then I'm going to, you'll see a dotted line here. This represents your 1/4 inch mark, and I'm going to put the 1/4 inch mark on where I cut this out, and then you'll have a diagonal line. So right on the point, I'm going to mark a 1/4 inch in, because we want to cut a little notch in this for when we serge. And then I'm going to mark another, I'm going to mark all 4 corners. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut right to the dot. I'm going to notch this out, and like I said, because I use the air erase, it dissipates over time. So I've already tried it on the cork and it's already dissipating, so it works wonderful on it, so you don't have to worry about it staining your cork. And then, so we're going to go over a few tips. Now, this is for the holder. I cut out a 3 3/4 square for my coaster, and then the circle. Well, they have a template for you to print out and trace your circle in there. Well, I found that I'm going to use that Creative Grid circle ruler, and this one is the 3.5 inch wide one. I'm going to place it on my spinning mat and find my rotary cutter, and then I'm going to cut around and then just turn my mat. Do. I love this thing. It's so much fun.
Leslie used this in her Kimberbell the other night.
Leslie used this in her Kimberbell, so if you saw that, you can see where she used the rotating mat. It's a lot of fun, and it makes this easy, and because the Creative Grids, the ruler doesn't slide. And then I'm just going to go all the way around and cut out my circle. So I'm going to have this circle. Now, she talks about how on this pattern you can go in and notch out. I found that it's easier if you cut out the circle with the serger and disengage your cutting blade. She does talk about instructions about how to do a circle with that. If you were going to do that, then you would want to take and trace your circle on your square. You would trace your circle. So if I wanted to cut this out and do the 3.5 by 3.5, I'm sorry, 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, spin the mat. So if I cut this at 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and I want to do it how she talked about in the thing, then you can see where I have my circle cut. I would actually come in with a pair of scissors and notch out part of the cork so that I can get it into my cutting blade. And so that's why I found this much easier than going in and cutting out starting the cutting where the cutting blade's going to be. The next thing is, has everybody seen the new air thread Sergers? I love these things. So I have got to make sure everybody saw this.
Watch your elbows.
So I bought this variegated pearl cotton. It's a 20 gauge is what I'm using today. And because it's thicker, it won't blow into the tubes. So what I have to do is I need to take thread from whatever normal Serger thread or whatever, pull off about 16 inches. And then I'm going to cut the 16 inches of thread. I'm going to start the pearl cotton.
Watch your elbows.
But actually first, what I need to do on this machine, the door is open. I need to turn this knob so that it locks my bars. I am then going to turn the hand wheel, and then you will see right here where my finger is, that's going to click and it's going to lock. And then I'm going to take my pearl cotton, make sure your presser foot is up, and at this point I am going to tie thread to my pearl cotton. And because you're watching, I'm all thumbs. Haha. I'm going to pretend you're not watching. That will help. Do.
Do you do that when no one's watching?
Yes, I do. I do that all the time when no one's watching. Now, notice I'm pulling on that. That comes apart. I'm going to have to put another knot in there because when I go to pull it through the tube, it won't stay knotted.
How long of a tail do you need?
You need about 12 inches of a tail of the thread is what you need on this. So you can see I have more than 12, but give yourself at least 12 inches. And then now on these air threaders, do not lick your thread. Do not because that's our first impulse. So I'm doing the lower looper first. So I'm going to move the knob to the right. I am going to thread the thread into the tube, get it started.
Which is hard when people are watching.
And then I'm going to lift the lever, push it down, and the thread will pop out over here. And I did not have enough in the tube, which is fine. Oh, well, actually, my finger got stuck on it. There's my thread. So at this point, I'm going to take my tweezers, and I'm going to gently pull my variegated pearl cotton through. I'm going to pull it to the back of the machine. And I'm all thumbs because everybody's watching. Haha. Well, so I did that one. So now we're going to do the upper looper. So all I have to do is move this knob to the left. And then I'm going to tie another piece of string to that, which I can use the previous one that I...
Waste not, want not.
Exactly. And then we're just going to... Except you don't want to use one if there's a knot on it. But again, I'm going to tie my knot. Possibly. Nope. Give myself more thread. See, you have to have fun while you're doing this, ladies. Have to have fun while you're doing this. And again, I just want to make sure that there's enough knot on there, because when you start pulling it through, if the knot comes undone or pulls loose,
tragedy,
then you have to rethread it, and we don't want to have to do that. So I'm threading this through, and then lift the lever, push down, voila, and then we just gently pull that through, and there we go. And then I'm just going to pull that thread to the back of the machine. I have already threaded the needles and the threads threaded to the back. I just wanted to show you how much easier this is to thread. So if anybody has ever seen a traditional serger, there's a lot more in depth on how to thread it. So I'm going to move this back over to unlock my tubes, and then I'm going to close my door, and I am ready to serge.
What do you do with your spools back there?
So the spools back here is like these here. I actually put them in this tray.
Which
so
one is that tray?
The tray is actually the thread catching tray that you're supposed to be here to catch your scraps. But I have disengaged the cutter. So I want to disengage the cutter, which it's engaged. I'm going to disengage it because I have cut the fabric to what I want it. I am going to come over here. I want to increase my stitch length to 4. I'm going to leave the differential feet at 1. And then I'm going to do a practice serger piece. So here's a practice circle. I'm going to take, and I'm going to have my curve right up to kind of where the finger or the blade would be at right here. I hope everybody can somewhat see that. Right about here. I do not want my looper to catch that. I'm going to bring it up to the needles, lower my foot pedal. Presser foot. And then I'm going to start serging. And then I'm going to watch here where my cork is, that it's right at, and if I need to, lift the presser foot a little bit, adjust that.
Down.
Yep. So then, if I need to do that again, I can adjust it. And then I'm just going to go around in a circle. Now, because I did disengage the cutter, I want to snip this thread. So I'm going to snip that. I'm going to come around. And I'm going to serge into my previously serged spot. Then I am going to serge off. And you want to give yourself, for this one, you want to give yourself a tail. What we need to do is we need to tuck that tail. So I am using a darning needle that has a large eye. I am going to thread my darning needle Now, most impulse that we would have is that we would want to take the needle and use the pointed end. I find the blunt end goes through better, and you're just going to thread it through your loops. You're going to thread that in, take your needle off, and you can also tie an end off if you want to. I'm going to snip this, and then I am going to use my sewer's aid, this here, which this one is oh no, that's the wrong stuff. Yeah, not sewer's aid. No, we need what is it called, Liz?
Seam fix.
We need seam fix, and what it does, it's a glue, and it will keep that from fraying on you. So there's my coaster that's in a circle. Now, traditionally, when we have these pieces here, there's a method of, and I'm going to show you two methods on this square. What we want to do, and then on the first method, then yes, I want my blade engaged. And I'm going to shave on this one. I would engage the blade, and I'm going to serge off, and then I have this tail here. Well, I'm going to cut the tail. So I'm going to go here and serge off again. And then you keep doing this around it. The thing is this being a square, I now have these extra tails. Well, there's a way that we can do it in one continuous seam. So if I started out, I'm going to go through, I'm going to serge right to the very end. And then when I get close to the end, I'm going to turn the hand wheel, and I'm going to go, I like 2, but go 1 to 2 stitches off it. Don't go more than 2. And then I'm going to have my needles up, raise my presser foot, gently pull the project back, pivot around, and then bring it over up to your cutting blade here, and make sure your needles are right at the edge of your project. So I'm going to make sure when I come back in, my needles will be hitting right here. And so then I'm going to start serging here, and then again when I get to the edge to finish it, I'm going to go 1 to 2 stitches off the edge. You don't want to go more than 2 because then you have too much bulk. Lift my presser foot, ease back, pivot, butt this up to your blade, lower your presser foot, make sure your needles are right at the end, and then you're going to serge. But when you get to your very last spot, where I was here, we're going to serge all the way off, give yourself a tail, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our darning needle.
So let's see both corners. The one.
So here's the corner that I did not trim. I pivoted on that.
Okay.
Then this is where we do the trim off. So on this one, to make it continuous so I don't have as many tails, I will just pivot around. Now, if we wanted to see the circle, notice on the circle one where I started the cutout, where that's important is we want to start it. So if you want to do this with the cutting blade and not cut the whole circle out, I would cut this out here so that I don't have the bulk with the blade. I will make sure my needles are up. Insert the circle up to the blade where the line is. Start serging around, and then the blade will cut my circle. So you could do it either way. And then bring the tail around, serge onto the part that I had serged on, and serge off. Give myself a tail, and I'm going to tuck those threads. So there is one of my coasters.
Could you do 2 layers of cork?
You can do 2 layers of cork. Make sure that you do have a relatively new needle in there, and we will just give that a try.
Ooh.
let's go ahead and
unprepared, untested.
We're going to
Going rogue.
Exactly. So I just cut 2 rectangles just to see how it will stitch. I'm going to leave, because it's not even, I'm going to leave my blade engaged. And then I'm going to serge to the edge and just go over off the end twice again. Lift, pivot, make sure my needles are at the end. Serge off the edge, 1 or 2 stitches. Lift presser foot, pull back, pivot, make sure your needles are at the end. And then 1 more stitch. So if you notice, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm using the hand wheel. When I get to the very end, I'm using the hand wheel to stitch off. I'm not using my presser foot. And then, yeah, there's your 2 pieces.
It's a little sturdier.
It's a little bit sturdier. So you can use these 2, you can put 2 pieces together. I just recommend that if you're doing the circles with 2 pieces, use your Wonder clips and clip them so that they don't move. You don't want to use a straight pin because you don't want the pin in the cork. So make sure you're using your Wonder clips with the circle parts, and that would probably be easier if you, and make sure you use your Wonder clips and trace your circle. Next part we're going to do is this piece. I don't want to do these top edges first. I want to do the in corners. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you first, is I'm going to come in, I'm going to serge down, and when I get to here, I'm going to open that up and stitch straight across. So I want to, and I found out on this one, ask me how, the hard way, disengage your cutter blade, because I cut into a piece of cork and I was not happy with myself. I was saying some not very nice words. So I'm going to stitch here, and I'm going to stitch to the end. I'm going to stitch to where my needles are right at the end of that little slit that I cut. I'm going to make sure my needles stay into the cork, lift my presser foot, straighten out this cork here, lower my presser foot, stitch across, stitch, and now this one I'm going to stitch off. So I want to do each 4 corners like this, the end corners. And then needles are in the cork. I'm going to turn this and straighten it out, lower my presser foot. Now, you want to make sure, because I don't have the cutter, your fabric doesn't go too far to the right, or your looper hook will hit it. So I want to go ahead and serge off the end. And so you will see here. So I'm going to continue around and do all 4 of those. Then I'm going to come in. We're going to get to this part here. I am going to engage my cutter again. And I want to make sure when I start out, I hope you can see, I have about 4 inches there. You want to give yourself about 4 to 6 inches of a tail. I prefer the 6 because it's room to work with. We're going to serge off. And what it does is it leaves a tail so that we can tie the basket together. And we're going to serge off. So you can see my corner here. I'm going to take my corner like this, and then I am going to tie. So I use my tails here, and I'm going to tie my corners. So I'll do a knot, and if you give yourself enough tail, if you want to, you can make a cute little bow tie, little tie there, maybe, possibly, sometime today would be awesome. and then I can make a cute little tie. Now, this is what the pattern calls for of tying this. Liz, so we're done looking at the serger. So Liz made.
We might be back in a minute. We might be back in a minute. We have some questions.
Okay. So Liz made a suggestion. You can have the serger here, but use your rivets and rivet the side together also if you wanted to do that.
But I had it too late and forgot to bring my riveter.
Yeah, and I didn't really prepare for it. So my fault, everybody. Sorry.
Me neither. So we have lots of questions.
Okay.
And
questions
then,
will be wonderful.
And then we can come back to what's next. So the first question, so you might have to repeat these. What is the name of the book again?
The name of the book is Serger 101 by Katrina Walker.
If they came to our multi-needle event.
If you came to the multi-needle event last year, she also was the educator for that. So she is an educator who shows people how to use the machine. So she has done the hands-on a lot with people, and so she has a good idea of what questions people ask for. So I find her book very knowledgeable on tips. And she does a lot of garments.
What is the name of the serger and how much is it?
The name of the serger, this is the Husqvarna Viking Amber Air S400. And then there's also a FOF version of it too. It's a 4-thread.
Admire Air 5000.
And the FOF one is a Admire Air 5000. The retail price for both of those machines is $1,800. The sale price is $1,299. $1,299. That's the sale price right now. And if you do purchase the serger from us, you do get the lessons and the help on how to use the serger.
So then we have a question. Oh yes. So yes.
Next question is.
You only are using 2 threads?
I am using 4 threads. Now I'm glad somebody asked this. On the serger, I am using this here in the needles. I am using the 20 gauge pearl cotton in the loopers. You do not want to use your pearl cotton, which is the pink one in my right hand. Do not use pearl cotton in the needles. You will not like the results. Your machine will not like you. Ask me how I know this, because I've tried it. It did not play well.
I read it in a book, so.
And what I did is, so your needle thread doesn't show up much, so I picked fabric that matched the color of my background cork in my needles. And I used the variegated to go with this. There are other corks you can get. So it's not just, rainbow, because, maybe people aren't a fan of unicorns or anything. It's possible. We do have regular cork that has the gold flakes in it. Or you have the plain cork that has nothing in it. They also have some cork. If you can see here in this packaging, this is bundle package. We have a hot pink, no gold flakes, a navy, and then like a brownish taupe, I guess. You could get different colors, and then this one is all orange with silver flakes in it. There's a variety of cork that you can get. Now, when you pick up this book and look at it and say, she talked nothing about cork. She did use wool. But all the techniques that I showed you today, you can do the same thing on wool. So don't get discouraged if you pick this up and you're like, but it says wool. Wool is thick, and so it works just as nicely. But the cork was just a neat idea to use the cork.
Freight check, that's what we were trying to.
Freight check, yes. Freight check
Thanks,
is what we needed.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. I was having a blonde moment. No offense to any blondes out there, but I have them quite often.
Suski wants to know, can a serger go backwards to lock stitches?
No, sergers do not go in reverse. Sergers, only way you can go in reverse is turn the hand wheel backwards, and you can get it knotted up in the loopers. So it only goes forward. Locking the stitches, that's where when you get your tail end here. So what the question was from Sue was, can you go backwards? So you leave a tail so that you can either take the tail.
Take your nubby needle and do it again.
So you're going to take the tail, and I'm going to thread in the needle and I'm going to thread this. And you want to make sure, again, you want to use a darning needle or a large embroidery needle that has a large eye to it, because you got to be able to pull all those threads into it. You are then going to take this, and I am tucking it to the back side.
And using the non-pointy side, which was a good tip.
And I'm using the non-pointy side because I found if I use the pointed tip, just don't shove it into your hand. I found that I kept getting into my project or in the loops, and I found if I use the blended end where the eye is, it threads through a lot nicer. Then if you see here on the back, I would clip this and do fray check, or you kind of take it apart a little bit and you could tie a knot at the end. The reason why it's important with this is because if you undo a loop just right, the whole thing will come unthreaded. So you want to make sure you tuck it, fray check, or tie a knot in your thread tails. So on sergers, we're so used to when we're sewing one, we want to clip up to the project. On sergers, you want to leave a tail until you're ready to finish it. So it's a good thing to always leave a tail, and then you clean it up by going back over. What locks it is going back over with another serger seam, or tucking it into the actual serge seam and tying a knot and using fray check.
What is a good beginner serger?
Good beginner serger, if you're just wanting to do basic overlock stitch for garments, or even simple projects like this one, a 4-thread. And this is a 4-thread serger.
And if that's not a terrible price, that's really.
And this is a really nice price for the threading of it. The 4-thread, you could do your regular 4-thread overlock wide, 3-thread overlock narrow. So you can make, when I say that, this seam is your overlock. I can make it wide, narrow. You can use 4 threads, 3 threads, or 2 threads.
Sergers do more stitches than people think they do.
They do more stitches than what you would think. The reason why you would go from 4 to 3 is maybe you only want your overlock to be narrow. The other reason why you want to go to a 3-thread or a 2-thread is because it does a very nice rolled hem. And you don't have to have a foot for that. If you are doing a rolled hem, they have...
Costco. I'm so sorry. Tell them Costco called.
Sorry if everybody got something in the video. Somebody was calling Liz's cell phone because we do this on her cell phone, so shame on them. But it's hard to see, but it's stretchy. This nylon thread is stretchy, and it does great for rolled hems. You could have also used this in one of the loopers for this basket. So you don't have to necessarily get the pearl cotton. You can get the stretchy woolly on your project. And I use the pearl cotton in the upper looper and lower looper. So sergers have loopers, not a bobbin. So that was something else I didn't talk about. Sergers do not have a bobbin. The loopers lock in the stitch with the needle stitches.
Next question.
Next question is...
Sergers have needle threaders.
Sergers... This serger has needle threaders. Not all sergers have needle threaders. Now, like the Coverlock, FOF Coverlock 3.0 and 4.0, and I don't remember the Husqvarna Viking, they have a threader attachment that it's extra to help you thread the needle. So it does come with something to help you thread the needles. But not all sergers have the threaders, and not all sergers come with those. The blow ends by FOF and Husqvarna Viking, they have the threaders.
Is the overlock thread the thread you see?
You actually see, so on here, if you were close up, you can see your needle stitches, but you see predominantly your loopers. You see your upper looper, but you can see your 2 needle threads.
So this is the upper looper and your needles, and this is your lower looper and your needles.
So you can see it, you just don't see the needle thread as much as the looper thread. Now with the looper thread, you go through a lot more thread than you do with sewing. So don't buy small spools of thread and do a big project. You will be running through them a lot.
But on the flip side, if you're doing something that's funky thread and you don't want...
If you're doing a funky project like this one, I did not get a big spool. I got these, and I put that in the looper. You could use the smaller spool. You just got to be mindful that the loopers use a lot more thread than the needles do.
What is your weight of your pearl cotton, or they're different weights?
The weight that I use today is a 20 gauge. So if you take like sewing thread, you got a 30 weight. This is closer to like, it's in between a 30 weight and a 12 weight. It's kind of close to a 12 weight, but the pearl cotton is a 20 gauge. I've also used a 12 gauge. 10 gauge gets really thick. So I've not been a fan of using 10 gauge on the serger. I like to stay around the 20 gauge or the 12 gauge.
That's my last question.
So today, again, we did the serger basket, which I love, which this is the finished one. And you can then put your coasters into your serger basket, and I've used the cork before as coasters, and it does really well with the moisture from your glasses, because I don't like people putting their glasses on my nice wood furniture.
What other projects are in the book?
Now, the other projects in the book, which I'm really liking one a lot, it's a kimono. Yes, I need a kimono like I need a hole in my head, but I still want one. There is a serger bag that is in here. It literally comes with 10 projects.
So she also gives you tips.
She gives you tips in the book. She goes through the book and she gives you tips about threading the serger, about how to adjust your needle, which I also have a class on that too. But if you can't get to one of my serger classes, this book is also very helpful. So here's my coaster. She has a basic serger bag that you could do like a wine carry bag or something like that. She has like a tote bag in here. She also does a flat lock table runner, which is another style of stitch that the serger can do, is a flat lock. She talks about garments. So it does talk about garments. Here's the table runner using the flat lock stitch, which is very cute. I want to do that one down the road. She also has like a rolled hem to do napkins and placemats. She also does a sheer scarf, and this one is the tote bag that she made. So it's a patchwork tote bag, and she used different styles of thread to go in with your flat lock stitch, and then construction of a shirt.
Oh.
And then we got pants. And
Are those knit pants?
yes.
I know you're excited about the kimono, but
Okay, I'll go back to the pants.
knit
All right.
pants.
All right. So we have right here, she talks about a knit shirt, flat lock construction of a knit t-shirt. So she's showing you how to do a t-shirt here, and then basic construction of knit pants or leggings. So if you like the bed pants to lounge around home, and this is a cute, simple,
Have a couple pieces of knit at the
and we do have knit at our store here in Lexington. So if you're at the Ohio store, well, near the Ohio store, you can either call us or you can go into the Ohio store and order it through them for us. I'm not 100% sure if the Ohio store has knits, but we do have some here. And then here is a nice, this one here is sheer and delicate with the serger. So this is like a blouse cover that she has here. And she talks about washing it. So she has quite a few garments in here, in this one. And then she also talks about specialty tools that would go with the serger. So there's additional feet that you could get with the serger, like if you want to do elastic, beading, cording, even a blind hem. And she talks about that in this book. So I have, but I am so glad that everybody was able to join today. I don't think that there's any more questions for me. I had a lot of fun doing this project. I hope you do too. And if Oh, one moment.
Stacy says yes, they have knits in Ohio.
Oh, Stacy just told me that they have knits in the Ohio store. So vice versa, if you come into our store and we don't have the knits you want.
Anybody that makes a comment gets entered to win it.
And don't forget, everybody who participated, they need to make a comment in the participation why the video is going, and then your name will go into a drawing to get the ruler. I had so much fun today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for joining on. And next week, I am going to be showing you the Susie O'Berry Turner next week. If you have not seen that, that one's really neat. And I'm going to have this embroidered bag finished to show you what that looks like. So thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.